Wayward Guide Beast. Yeah, you should almost never play this card. Don't do it. It's mandatory. And it only triggers on combat damage to a player, so it's like a 2/2 blocker. But, I mean, you should never play this card. Delicate Exploration. Okay, so this has a lot of text, but let me tell you the gist of it. It's landfall. You may play the top card of your library. Exile, you may play the that card of your top card of your library. And at end of turn, they take 1. A lot of people are misread this and think it's converted mana cost the cards as not. They're gonna take 1, right? Now, you know, your deck's gonna be like 16, 17 lands, so it's landfall 40% of the card time, deal 1 to your opponent, and then 60% of the time, maybe not deal just 1 to your opponent, maybe play a card. This card is not good. You should not play this card. Yeah, and because you can't play more than 1 land per turn, like if you hit a land, you can't even play it. So this is much worse. This is like the worst iteration of these types of cards they have ever made. Typically they have like Tuna Red. If you have a 4-power creature, exile the top card, you can play until the next turn. Or, you know, there have been cards like that in the past, and they've all been pretty medium, and you should almost never play them. And this is worse than all those, so you should just never play this card. I can imagine if it's a matchup where it's really slow, maybe, but doubt it. Shadow Scroll Charger, Trample Haste. And it was kicked, enters battle with a counter on it. At the beginning of your own insta, if it doesn't have a counter on it, return to your hand. Yeah, you should almost always play this card. I don't even know why you wouldn't. So it's a 5-mana 5/4 haste, which is like the equivalent of the uncommon that we said we would always play. The Shatter Skull Minotaur. It's just a Shatter Skull Minotaur, except it also has trample. It also has trample, and you can sometimes play it for 3. So, yeah, I'll always play it. Roiling Vortex, yeah, it's anti-gain life, it's anti-free spell. It's like a constructed card, maybe. You don't play this card ever. Relic Robber, haste. Whenever deals combat damage to a player, that player creates a 0/1 colorless goblin construct artifact creature token. Wow. Colorless goblin construct artifact creature token. With this creature cannot block, and at the beginning of your upkeep, this creature deals 1 damage to you. Interestingly, the thing you give them can attack, which is weird. So if they have equipment, they can bash you with it. This is a card you should probably almost always play. I don't even know if there's that many sack effects in the format to really punish you for this. So I think it just needs to connect once, and it's gonna like probably deal. It's like a 3-mana 6/2 if you play it on turn 3 on the play, right? 3-mana 7/2 maybe. That's a pretty fantastic deal. Now here he's lithoforming. Sacrifice X lands. For each land sacrificed this way, draw a card. You may play X additional lands this turn. Lands you control can enter the battlefield tapped. I think if you have like 4 or 5 landfall creatures, maybe you play this. Especially if you have multiples of 3/1 tramples. I think at vast majority of the time you're not going to play this card. It's like, what are you thinking? On turn 6, you're going to play this for 6, sacrifice 4 lands, you're going to draw 4 cards. This is probably worse than Tormenting Voice, unless you have a lot of landfall cards. So the problem with this lithoforming is you're drawing cards you probably can't cast. So Magmatic Channeler. As long as there are 4 more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, it's +3/+1. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may choose one of them. Play that land card next turn. This card is fantastic. Always play it. It's a rummager that randomly is a 4/4. So, great. Kargan Intimidator. Cowards can't block warriors. 1 mana, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Kargan Intimidator gets +1/+1 on the turn. Target creature against a coward. Target warrior begin. Okay, yeah. This card is great. Always play it. So, yeah, not much to say about it. One thing to keep a note on is the second part of this ability. Says target creature becomes a coward. It actually removes all creature types. So if your opponent is a rogue and you make them a coward, they are no longer a rogue. which means if your opponent has some sort of party members card, it will not function as they expect it to. So weirdly enough, in Constructed, this is a Winota card, because Winota is like, it's a human that basically makes non-humans. So, because you can just turn your own creature into a coward instead of a human, and then you can attack, and then Winota says, oh, you're not a human, you're a coward. Let me look at the top 6 and spend something into play. Leyline Tyrant, obviously it's a card you're always going to play, so not much to say about it. It's a bomb. It's great. Laurel, Fury Vacuum. Each creature you control gets +1 over each time it is attacked. Landfall, whenever light enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, not tap all creatures you control. Yeah, this card's great. You're always going to play it. So, there's these. Obviously, you're going to play them. So, not much to say about any of these cards. Shadow Skull Smashing is obviously amazing. You're going to play it. Elliots Awakening. Something to keep in mind of Elliots Awakening is this is a card you're always going to play. This is a Tormenting. This is like a strictly better Tormenting Voice because it could be a land. You can literally just cycle this for 3 because the last line of text is +1. So if you just pay 3 mana, you can it just cycles for 3 mana on its own. And you can also just cycle like 3 cards away and then you draw 4. It's just a fantastic card. Always play it. This is a card that is way better than... I feel like the +1 was tacked on at the end because this is a playable card even without the +1. So, yeah, it's also instant speed. Yeah. This is a weird one because this is not the type of card you would expect red to have access to. So, yeah. Yeah, it is good. It's Flux. Yeah. Instant speed Flux. Crazy. Always play it. Alright, so weirdly enough, red has a lot of like rares and uncommons that are not good, which is... But it looks like red is definitely an aggro color. It has a ton of burn. And it has a phenomenal 2-drop at common. And phenomenal, it has phenomenal 3-drops. So it's phenomenal 2 and 3s. So it probably pairs amazingly with black, which has almost no 2s and 3s. So I would expect blue, red, black, red to be good. I haven't looked at green yet, but yeah, and a lot of toughness, weirdly. And yeah, it's gonna be great. Red looks amazing in this so far, absolutely amazing, and I would expect it to be one of the best colors. Probably one of the top 2 colors. Black and white looked a lot worse than blue and red so far. So we'll look at green now.